Hi, I hope everyone is doing great today. All right, so I'm gonna have an honest conversation with you today. I am really passionate about being truthful and being authentic and women sharing their stories. I think what happens in the society that we've lived in is that we take the good, bad, and what we call the ugly of our lives, and we shame base ourselves and we feel not enough and we feel unworthy. And I experienced all of that and so much more. And when we hear other women's stories, we all of a sudden feel like I'm not the only one. And there's a sense of relief that kind of sometimes comes through that. So I'm going to share with you today my story. Hopefully, it is helpful to you. And if you have any questions or want more information about anything in particular, I'm happy to create videos about that because, you know, probably like many of you, I come from an Oprah Winfrey generation. And one of the things that I loved about Oprah, and then I'll get to my story, is I love that she was so willing to learn with every single one of us, that she was so willing to be vulnerable. And I feel like a lot of people that are Gen X, like myself, she really was a huge part of us growing up. And I know she was for me. So, paying forward to what I observed with Oprah, I model myself that way now that I've come through this part of my journey and continue to have this journey and evolve like everybody else. My life is far from perfect. I've entered a whole new phase called perimenopause, which I will speak about a little as well. So back for me in 2012 is when I hit 40. And that's when it first started to kind of show up. I I started to really be mindful of like, is what else is out there? What's beyond my ordinary, boring life? And I wasn't unhappy. I didn't really love my job, but I wasn't really per se unhappy. I just was like, what else is out there? But it was actually the start of something huge for me. And then that kind of grew. And in 2012, I did my first coaching program after I had gotten laid off. And it was like, wow. I literally felt like I was a kid in kindergarten. And I was so excited. And I met all these wonderful people. And I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And here's the thing, my husband was like, this is woo woo BS. Like, no, this isn't happening. Like, I'm glad that you went and you had fun, but nope, you need to like go get a real job. This isn't gonna work and what have you. And I remember going from super, super excited to feeling like I was crushed like a bug underneath his sneaker. And all of my insecurities, like I grew up in a house where my father was like the king of the castle and he spoke and everybody listened and you didn't share your feelings and you didn't show your emotions and it was really like I didn't even know what I felt half the time other than my little nervous system was overstimulated and I never spoke up and I was super crazy shy and to the point like in 7th grade my teacher actually called because I never spoke up because there was just so much going on in my life at that time. And so if you grow up in a home where you're a people pleaser and you're managing people's emotions and you're trying to keep your nervous system squared away and um, you're trying to be the good girl, right? Put yourself last. Oh, okay, so better yet, don't even put yourself on the list. How about that? The reality of that one. I have no boundaries because I'm just going to try and make everybody happy. And we become adults. And then we wonder why is my life so like this? But that was part of the journey for me. And part of my journey was about, so in 2012, like I said, I did this course and I was so excited and it was a massive no. And I had no voice. I didn't speak up. I put my head down, like I was scolded by my parent, and I went about and I got another job, and I completely self-rejected myself, even though there was a part of me that was like seen and heard that had never experienced before. But it was hope. And sometimes we just need a little stray of light, of hope, to come in to start the ball rolling. And I got a job and I worked for a few more years. And then the shifts kept coming and my life started not working anymore. I started not being happy in my marriage that I wasn't super happy with in the very beginning, but it wasn't unhappy either. It's kind of like that in between, you know? And I really started to evolve and change, and I didn't really know what was going on. And there was a part of me that wanted it, and there was a part of me where every time I could start to show up at the door and ring the doorbell, I was like, "Oh, I'm not home." But secretly, deep down, I wanted the change. But I didn't want the change if my life was going to be uncomfortable to get there. You know, it's like I wanted the fairies to show up and be like, okay, here's your new life, and you don't have to go through anything. And that's not how it works, at least not for me. And especially if you're empathic or you're here to be a healer or any of those modalities or mystics or things like that, a lot of us, um, we experience life really firsthand because we're wounded healers, is really what the truth of the matter is. And I feel as though now I understand that that's really the category that I fell into. But at the time, I figured I was just this ordinary lady who was just, my life was falling apart. And what did I do? What did I do? Actually, life was happening for me, and I just couldn't see it at that point in time. So now we fast forward to say 2017, 2018. And at this point, it was building. You know, the discomforts were building. I noticed that my weight was increasing, or I was just unhappy. And I was looking to find external validation or find answers outside of myself. And I would um, use whatever I could to also self medicate my emotions. And Ben and Jerry's Super New York Superfuzz Chunk was my go to. And so we kind of got to this point where it was like I was using food more and more and more because, again, it's like in some shape or form, it's like any addict, it doesn't work anymore at 2 scoops of ice cream. It's now like the pint of ice cream. And it's like the pint of ice cream and the bag of chocolate before you got home from grocery shopping to numb yourself out. And I was showing up on a regular basis as a numbed version of myself because I didn't want to face my emotions. I didn't even want to feel. I had never been taught to feel. I never knew how to regulate my nervous system. So every time my nervous system got hijacked from being rejected or doing something, speaking up for myself, it got so overloaded that I needed to or I felt like I needed to go into regulation mode, and that was